Imagine a company so successful, it literally runs out of room to grow. This is Omnicorp, a massive industrial operation on planet Alpha that has completely maxed out its domestic market share. To maintain its profit margins, Omnicorp faces three specific economic pressures: the need for new consumers to buy their products, cheaper raw materials to manufacture them, and lower corporate tax rates. When a massive company finally taps into a brand new, highly populated market, the scale of the demand can be staggering. We saw this in 1990. The sheer volume of eager new consumers changed a company's balance sheet overnight. When a corporation outgrows its home borders simply to survive and expand, it stops being a local business. It becomes a geopolitical force. Economists call this a multinational corporation, or MNC. That's a parent company based in one country that owns and controls production or services in at least one other country. The arrival of these firms often creates a striking visual contrast. In developing regions, high-tech corporate branding looms directly over traditional agricultural workers. Back to our alien metaphor, Omnicorp sets its sights on planet Beta. This is the host country, a developing world that has abundant natural resources but is struggling with high unemployment. This sets the stage for a massive power imbalance. To understand how this relationship works, we have to evaluate what happens when a single entity's wealth exceeds the GDP of the entire planet it lands on. Omnicorp arrives with a massive injection of capital, known as foreign direct investment, or FDI. By building physical factories on the ground, the corporation bypasses the import taxes and trade restrictions that Beta's government might have used to protect local industry. This provides an immediate upside for the host country. Omnicorp hires thousands of local Beta aliens, which raises local incomes and boosts living standards almost overnight. This injection of capital also functions as an educational investment. Look at historical manufacturing expansions. Multinationals establish complex assembly lines and teach the local workforce entirely new, highly valuable technical skills. These benefits ripple outward. To keep their massive operation running, Omnicorp starts buying raw materials and intermediate parts from local Beta suppliers, stimulating the broader domestic economy. In this initial phase, the MNC acts as a massive economic accelerant. It provides the heavy infrastructure, capital, and technical training that the developing host country could not afford to build on its own. But that massive size soon becomes a problem for the locals. Omnicorp operates on such a huge scale that it exploits economies of scale, pushing its average production costs down to a fraction of what local competitors pay. By keeping prices low, massive global retailers permanently undercut smaller mom-and-pop businesses. Less competitive local companies are swiftly pushed into bankruptcy. Then comes the squeeze. Because Omnicorp now props up a large chunk of the local economy, they possess immense bargaining power. They can threaten to relocate to another planet entirely unless the host government lowers environmental protections and labor safety laws. Economists call this the race to the bottom. When host countries sacrifice safety regulations to appease a multinational, the human cost is severe, leaving local populations with permanent health consequences and destroyed ecosystems. Omnicorp also uses a complex accounting mechanism called transfer pricing. They artificially inflate the prices of materials they buy from their own global affiliates. On paper, it looks like their local Beta operation has massive expenses, so the actual profits are mathematically drained away into offshore shell accounts. Because corporate taxes are paid on profits, Omnicorp's tax bill in the host country drops to zero. The host government is deprived of the critical tax revenue they need for local infrastructure and development. While the host country gains an initial burst of infrastructure and jobs, it risks having its local business ecosystem crushed, its environment degraded, and its fair tax revenue swallowed by the MNC's sheer market gravity. Meanwhile, back on Omnicorp's homeworld of planet Alpha, that offshore wealth makes its return. It travels back across space in a process called profit repatriation, wealth generated overseas flowing back to the home country. This incoming wealth does not get distributed equally. It primarily benefits Alpha's corporate executives and shareholders through higher dividends and stock values. For the working-class aliens back home, the reality is entirely different. Take a look at this chart. While corporate profits rise directly from overseas expansion, domestic manufacturing jobs plummet, creating a wave of structural unemployment. Because Omnicorp moved its heavy manufacturing to Planet Beta to exploit cheaper labor, the original workforce left behind on Alpha suddenly finds that their physical labor skills are obsolete. An MNC's success creates a deep, permanent economic divide between the capital owners who profit from the expansion and the domestic working class who get left behind. If you are tackling this topic on an IGCSE Economics exam, here is your rule. When asked to evaluate the impact of a multinational corporation, you must actively make a judgment. You have to take the specific benefits, the new jobs, the physical infrastructure, and the transfer of technology, and weigh them directly against the costs, like local businesses closing down, profit leakage, and environmental pollution. When a host government successfully manages this influx, it can shift a nation's trajectory, replacing traditional industry with modern skyscrapers and high-tech infrastructure in just a few decades. A top-tier exam answer requires you to analyze whether those long-term benefits ultimately outweigh the costs, relying entirely on the specific evidence provided in your case study. Let's step away from the alien planets. The mechanics of our real global economy are held together by actual shipping containers, massive ports, and highly complex logistics. In a fully interconnected world, there are no isolated corporate actions. Every expansion, every factory moved, and every business decision made in a boardroom creates permanent, complex ripples across the entire globe.